Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pet Food Puzzle Guy. My name is Glenn, and if you are new, the whole point of this channel is we consider ourselves the nutrition mission, and our mission is to bring nutrients back to the discussion of nutrition because it's been totally hijacked by the ingredientists out there. They're nothing but people that have no nutritional credentials whatsoever, but they think they're specialists or experts, and all they do is talk about ingredients. And little do they know, they're doing is playing into the pet food marketers out there that have decided it's much easier to fool people with ingredients, demonize some, glamorize some, and keep the discussion away from actual nutrients, because to control nutrients in the diet is difficult. It takes nutritionists and chemists and lots of money. And why do that when you can just have a pretty package and manipulate an ingredient panel that's totally deceptive? That's the way to go. So that's the whole purpose of this channel, to help you pet parents see what is just pet food marketing and what is actual nutrition science. So anyway, I bring my knowledge and my experience. I hope you'll check out this video plus some others on my channel, and please let me know what you think, because we're all just trying to do the best for our pets. I'm always scouring the internet and social media looking for misleading information that just confuses you pet parents and really can put you into guilt and shame and all the other stuff. And lo and behold, one of our favorites. Some of them have really kind of gotten quiet over the last couple months. I'm not sure why, but you can always count on Dr. Judy to come up with some good stuff. And she just did a video. So let's just jump right in. But I need to respond to some of the stuff she's saying, not because she disagrees with me. I could care less who disagrees with me, but because the information is just so bad. So let's just head and get started, please. As always, let me know what you think. If you agree with me, that's great. If you don't, please let me know what you're thinking. But my purpose of responding to this video is, again, because it's so misleading and the information is so bad, and I know it's out there and going to affect so many people's decisions on how they take care of their pets, and that's what drives me nuts. So here we go.
The goal of this video is not to spread fear, but to educate and empower pet parents so you can ask informed questions and make the best decisions for your own pet.
Oh, now, isn't that nice? You got the beautiful music in the background and the white lab coat. Really good touch there, Doc. So clearly, you're just trying to educate. You're just trying to inform pet parents. You don't want to cause any fear. You know, that sounds so great. That sounds so noble. But as we go through here, we find just the opposite. We find blind bias by somebody that stopped looking at nutrition probably in the 80s, judging from the stuff you say, even in this interview or this video, that was only true in the 80s is not true anymore. But because you totally rejected nutrition science and got into your Eastern mysticism and all the other stuff, the holistic stuff you do, which was fine. You know, if you took that and incorporated that with proven science, hey, go for it. But no, your bias is so extreme one way that you stopped learning. And I know it because I've heard it. You talk about hydrolyzed diets, you talk about urinary diets. Every time it's out of the 80s. We're now into the 2020s, and nutrition science has come a long way, but not for you, because all you can do is demean it and call it crap and everything else. But I get ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and see what you have to say after that wonderful, very professional intro there. Now let's see how it goes.
So therapeutic diet manufacturers require a veterinarian's prescription to purchase pet foods that are considered prescription or therapeutic, but they don't have to prove that those diets are safe and effective.
So here we are. Dr. Judy's talking about prescription diet, and when she uses prescription diet and therapeutic diets interchangeable, and we really need to clarify. Hill's Prescription Diet, they own that logo or that trademark of prescription diet. IMS or Eucanubis veterinary diets, I think ProPlan veterinary diets, Royal Canin. The names don't matter, but they are therapeutic diets. So we'll kind of lump them all together. When she says prescription diet, she really is including Royal Canin and Purina, and even Eucanuba to a point when they had veterinary diets, in that group. So we need to make a distinction. But what does she say here? That there's no proof of safety or efficacy with these diets. It's never been proven. Now if you're an average pet parent out there, you're not you don't have access to the studies, the universities, the conferences, the CE, the continuing ed that veterinarians get, the reps coming in like me, showing the studies, showing what's going on with a new diet or a new discovery. For her as a veterinarian who has access to all this, by the way, clearly she has rejected using any of that access, but for her to say there's no proof of safety or efficacy with these diets, what she really means is the FDA has not tested these diets. The FDA has said, hey, we test drugs, we do this over here. These therapeutic diets are kind of out of our realm, so we don't really handle them. We're not nutritionists, we're not veterinarians. So the FDA, rightly so, kind of really can't, they don't know what to do with therapeutic nutrition. So basically they, as you'll see, they kind of pawn it off. They trust the research and the studies and all that these companies do. And again, as a veterinarian, she could go look at that. She could look at all the different studies and the universities where it's done, and the nutritionists that don't even work for Hills or Purina that are kind of become to the forefront of renal research or urinary research. The Minnesota Urolith Center. There's so much out there. But she's going to look at that little part and says, oh, well, the FDA hasn't tested this stuff. So to the pet parents, what is she telling them? She's telling them, oh, there's no proof that these diets work. There's no testing. There's nothing because the FDA didn't do it. Well, I'm telling you, the way I trust our U.S. government now, I'm really glad the FDA doesn't have much to do with it. That's a good thing. So right there, that's disingenuous. Oh, there's no proof that these diets work. Why? Because based on FDA, no, FDA is not touching that. Okay, so that's what she means.
Pet food manufacturers were able to usurp the term prescription literally as a marketing tool. It's confusing to pet owners and veterinarians when something that doesn't legally require a prescription goes by the name prescription, and your veterinarian and the manufacturer say that you have to have a prescription. It's unfair that a legitimate legal term that denotes drug safety and efficacy has been corrupted by pet food manufacturers in the service of their brand's bottom line.
So it bothers this veterinarian, this practicing veterinarian, it bothers her that Royal Canin, Hills, and Purina, that they have therapeutic diets, that you need to have a prescription, or it needs to be approved by a veterinarian in order to buy those products, okay? I can understand if you're not from the industry or from the profession, you don't understand why should that be, whatever. But for her, a practicing veterinarian, and wait, she's going to actually give you the valid reason why these companies do it. This is what's so ironic. So her bias is so blind, she doesn't know when she says something that actually makes sense. But she has a problem that they are requiring a prescription in order to get these foods. Take away the word prescription, because again, Royal Canin and Purina do not use the word prescription. That is strictly just a Hills thing. If Hills said Hills veterinary diets, it's not going to change the fact they want it sold through a vet managing a renal case, a urinary case. That's just good medicine, okay? That's why it's done that way. And as far as limiting the distribution of a product through distribution channels, every manufacturer out there, for every gizmo, every piece of furniture, every electronics, whatever, the manufacturer gets to decide based on how much product they can make, where they want to go with it, the pricing structure they want to give. They can just decide to distribute their product any way they want. Veterinary diets are no different. Everything's done the same way. This is not unique. There's high-tech manufacturers that won't put anything in Best Buy because they're just big box stores. They only give them to mom and pop shops or just online or vice versa. So this whole idea, it's a distribution rule that Hills started way back before Royal Canin and Purina were even on the scene, as you'll hear. But it was why? Because these diets belong in the hands of veterinarians recommending it to a sick patient through that pet parent, of course, and that they're going to be maintained. They're going to be managed while they're on this diet. That makes total sense to everybody, to a 12-year-old, but to a practicing veterinarian that's been practicing for 30 years. No, she has to go out there and mislead pet parents into thinking somehow this is just a mean business deal.
Therapeutic, aka prescription foods, are ubiquitous in veterinary medicine. Every veterinary practice pretty much uses them, unless you are lucky enough to have a holistic veterinarian who will help you make diets for your pet to support whatever issues they have going on.
So here she admits, yeah, pretty much therapeutic nutrition. You're going to find it in almost any veterinary clinic out there in the United States and elsewhere. If you don't, I would never go to that vet. I'm here to tell you, I've had human doctors, okay? If they're just into drugs and surgery and they're not thinking holistically and lifestyle changes and all that, I won't go to them. I mean, my doctor's great. He's my age, going through the same stuff I am, thinks outside the box. That's all great. And veterinary medicine should be no different. But you think somebody should just ask her, Dr. Judy, you ever talk to all those doctors? There's literally about 22,000 vet clinics, actually probably a few more now in the country. They have what, 3 or 4 or 5 vets, and every one of them carries at least one brand of therapeutic diets. Most carry all three because they want all those different options, and that's great. Okay, more options. That's awesome because of palatability and all that. But you think it would occur to her? Oh yeah, all those doctors out there, they're all wrong. They're all either corrupt or dumb or they're out to just make money. The bottom line, that's all that matters to them. But maybe you're lucky and you have a holistic veterinarian that's going to show you how to concoct. We just passed Halloween, like a witch's brew. Oh, here, put all this stuff in here and these supplements. Oh, and I'll sell you those supplements, of course. Let's put all that in there and this, feed this. That's not complicated. That's not like, time consuming, and God only knows what it is that's in there. Did it come from a board certified nutritionist? Most of these recipes, God only knows where they're coming from. But just do all this instead of doing what those tens of thousands of veterinarians all across the country and the world do, using a diet that was actually designed by the top board certified nutritionists with millions of dollars worth of research, decades of research. Oh, but they're all wrong. Again, they're ignorant or stupid or brainwashed or greedy. No, you need to stick with Dr. Judy and Dr. Becker and all the concoction people. They're going to sell you their supplements and don't forget, they're going to charge you to have a consultation with them, because their time is so stinking valuable. Just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Again, and I think it was Ashley, one of the subscribers, asked just some of the last videos. I wish I could ask her, what does she think all these doctors that actually are so successful with these therapeutic diets from all three brands, by the way? I guess she just, no, I'm not going to look at that because that's bad. And I stopped looking at that in 1980. So now I'm just going to look at all this stuff over here that makes me feel good. That's all. This is feel good pseudo nutrition is what this is.
But the prescription foods in veterinary medicine are designed to address everything from renal failure and gastrointestinal sensitivity to allergic skin disease, liver disorders, geriatrics, mobility, brain health, you name it. They're making them for everything. When these products were developed in the 1970s and 80s, they were initially marketed as prescription diets by Hill's Pet Food Company. The idea was that these foods were not only more scientifically advanced, but that they were tailored for specific illnesses and were not considered appropriate for healthy pets. That's how they began way back in the 60s, 70s, 80s.
So actually, it was just Hills. Royal Canin and Purina were not around. She'll say that in a minute. But it was actually back in the late 40s that Dr. Mark Morris came up with a renal diet to help save Buddy, who's a very famous seeing eye dog that was traveling the world. And Buddy came down with kidney disease. So Dr. Mark Morris is credited for dietary management. Terms have changed over the years, but basically he was the one that said, hey, maybe we can manipulate nutrients to actually manage the disease or slow down the progression of the disease. And of course, the rest is history. So it wasn't in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. It was way back then. Where they put the prescription diet logo, I to be honest, I don't know. But right from the start, the doctor knew. And again, you got to go back to where there was no premium foods. There was nothing. So this is pretty weird. This guy coming up with a concoction that actually managed kidney disease. And of course, again, like I said, the rest is history. But the fact he did that, and he knew, okay, this needs to go home with renal patients. This should be sold through veterinarians. One, he couldn't produce enough. He finally got his friend Burton Hill in Topeka, Kansas. That's where the Hills Pet Nutrition comes from. It should be Morris Animal Nutrition. But anyway, Hills Pet Nutrition, made in Topeka. He took over producing it for Dr. Mark Morris. But it's always been distributed just through veterinarians because, again, the idea was you have a sick animal, they need this diet. Dr. Judy is correct that I remember I came on board in 1988. And at that point, urinary diets for cats, there and canine as well, there were struvite crystals and stones and calcium oxalate, and there were two very different diets for those two ailments. And I'm sorry, Minnesota Urolith Center, Dr. Osborne, kind of the guru of urinary for many, many decades. He worked really closely with Hills. He really believed, this just shows the limitations of science, he believed you couldn't come up with one diet to manage both stones. So they're two very different diets. If you fed the wrong one to the wrong cat, that could be bad. There were a few other diets that don't come to mind that were definitely fall into Dr. Judy's statement here that some of these diets, though perfect, she doesn't say it, they're perfect for the sick animal, but we don't want to feed them to the healthy animal. That is totally true. I will tell you, in 2024, I actually can think of no therapeutic diet that I couldn't feed to CD urinary diet. Okay, to my cat, I can feed it to my healthy cat. The one that has stones, great, it's going to work for her, but it's also perfect for my healthy cat. My older dog that's on KD, and I have a dog a few years younger than him that has no renal issues. Could they eat KD? Absolutely. As long as they could handle the extra calories, maybe that could be a problem. But I can think of no diet today. Again, this is back in the 80s. She remembers, and she's correct. There were diets of, oh my goodness, you got to make sure that's handled just by a veterinarian for that dog, which again reinforces why it's just through a veterinarian with a prescription, even though she hates that word prescription. That's why it's done that way. But today, if she had kept up with nutrition science, she would actually know. And I can't think of any Purina product or Royal Canin product off the top of my head that if as long as within that same life stage, you couldn't feed it to a healthy animal. And cats, oh my goodness, cats on KD, healthy cats on KD and CD because no one owns one cat. And I can't believe people do this because of cost, but they just want to feed one food to everybody. Lots of healthy cats eating KD, lots of healthy cats eating CD, and they do great. They do fine. So again, Dr. Judy is just dating herself that it's still 1980s in her head as far as her nutrition knowledge. So what she's saying was true then, but it's not true anymore.
And consequently, they were marketed exclusively through veterinarians to ensure that a veterinarian would be in charge of monitoring a pet's response to the restricted diet, and that the pet food company also had a vet's expert recommendation, which is a prized commodity.
So she actually gives a really great reason why it should be limited through veterinarians only. Because if you're on this diet, it's the veterinarian should be monitoring the pet's response to that diet. That's a great explanation. It really is. But what does she do immediately? Oh, so that they can just, make sure that the vet gets the recommendation. And, right away she has to take something so valid and so medical and the truth, and she's got to corrupt it with, oh, because of her bias that, well, it's just these companies trying to make money off these poor pet parents that, oh yeah, it's just to get that vet recommendation. That's all it is. Doesn't matter that it is right that it should be monitored through a veterinarian to make sure the pet responds right. There should never be a cat that gets diagnosed with urinary issues, put on CD, and then see you, Mrs. Jones, come in next year for your, checkup or whatever. Of course not. She knows that. She's a veterinarian, but no. She's not going to go that route. She had to turn on right away and say, oh, it's just, they're just collaborating. They're just out to, get money.
This arrangement also provided a veterinary hospital with a secure source of significant profits.
Oh yeah, the big money that veterinarians make selling diets. Yeah, again, I was a vet rep for 34 years. Okay, through through all markets, all different periods of time in the economy, whatever. Okay. I can tell you as a whole, veterinarians hated carrying food. Okay. For lots of reasons. It takes up tons of room. You don't remember, some of you do. Prescription diet canine bags used to be 40-pound bags. Can you imagine nowadays? We're all so wimpy nowadays, we could barely handle a 22-pounder, maybe a 35-pounder of science diet. But prescription diet came in 40-pound bags. So here's this stack of 40-pound bags, and usually multiple stacks, such as one diet, in a clinic. If they're actually promoting dietary management and using therapeutic nutrition, it was definitely more of a nuisance to veterinarians to have to carry it. And this was way before Chewy and PetSmart and Amazon and all that. So they had to carry it in the clinic. It was kind of a necessary evil, but they loved the results they got. But for the money they made, they would tell you, for my tech that has to inventory it and schlep it in the back room and everything else, and it just wasn't worth it. But they believed in the diet so much because they worked. So that's why they carried them.
When clients began asking to purchase these foods from other sources, manufacturers began to require written prescriptions. Fast forward 20 or 30 years, and greater competition in the pet food market means expanded distribution online and through big box retailers. The concession to the veterinarians who were unhappy with the competition was to continue to require prescriptions. So you had to go to your veterinarian in order to get the prescription to buy the food, even if you were buying it somewhere else.
So she kind of gets this history right, but not exactly. What happened was, if you could remember back far enough to when there was no PetSmarts or Petcos, those big box pet stores, when they started coming out and carrying all the different brands, of course, they could carry Science Diet because it was over the counter, but they couldn't carry prescription diet. But of course, PetSmarts then put Banfield hospitals within their buildings, and of course those are vet clinics, so they fall into the distribution policy. Problem was, the clinics didn't have aisles and space. That was all out in the PetSmart stores, so that presented a problem for Hills and for PetSmart, because of course they wanted prescription diet. Why not have pet owners coming through your store, right? So it was just agreed upon that, okay, that's fine, we can remedy this, that you still need authorization from your veterinarian, a prescription. But if you have that, even if you're not going to Banfield as a client, you can come in and get prescription diet. At first, I think I remember Purina and Royal Canin weren't going to have a prescription requirement, but they all agreed that's what you do in the vet clinic. The whole idea is, as Dr. Judy correctly said, to monitor that pet. They're not going to change that and just take these therapeutic diets, put them in a long aisle in PetSmart, and have the pet parents walking around trying to decide, oh, maybe I'll buy this urinary bag because I love the color or whatever. So that makes total sense. Total sense that, okay, we're going to make this easier for clients, because and doctors loved it. They really did. She makes it sound like, oh, because there was competition now to the veterinarian, they couldn't sell all that food in their clinic. Hills made sure that they added that or kept that prescription, so that they still had to come back to the vet to get permission to buy the food. Again, like it's all this ulterior motive here. No, it's being consistent with, we're monitoring your pet while they're on this diet, and you need to be getting the correct one, whether it's Royal Canin, Hills, or Purina. That's why you needed that card. When you went into VCA, you would show them, they would see, it showed the doctor's name, what the correct diet, and then they could sell it to you. That makes total sense. To any practicing veterinarian that can't understand that, I'm sorry, a 12-year-old can understand that. So, of course, now you can buy other places. And again, doctors love it. Doctors love Chewy. They love Amazon. They love anywhere where they can say, hey, I want your cat on this urinary diet, and you can go get it there. Maybe they'll carry 4-pound bags to get them started right away, because if the client leaves without that food, they forgot to go to the store, they went and just grabbed some Friskies, whatever. So a lot of vets will try to get them that first bay to get them started. They have a money back guarantee, so that's nice. The vets like that. But yeah, here's the prescription. Go and get it at Chewy or the PetSmart near your house. So this is a win-win for everybody. But again, she has to twist it that it was all, Hills was doing this to protect the business for the veterinarian.
These diets are not regulated by the FDA like drugs are. They did not have to endure rigorous safety and efficacy trials like drugs do. And the requirement of a prescription, though technically is legal, it's actually made up, it's not strictly necessary.
So I thought she said it was important that a veterinarian monitor the pet that's on that diet, but here she goes. Oh yeah, it's not necessary. I love that grin. Oh, well, it's legal, but it's not necessary. You're a veterinarian and you don't see the necessity of having a therapeutic diet managed with that client and with that patient. Unbelievable.
Ask 10 veterinarians, and I bet you get a generous majority could not correctly explain the FDA's role in pet food labeling, much less the legal issues surrounding therapeutic diet sales.
Yeah, I'm sure 10 out of 10 veterinarians couldn't tell you how the FDA is associated with therapeutic diets because they're really not. They're not a medication, so no, FDA doesn't know what to do with them. And the legalities, yeah, maybe if you as a veterinarian had actually been more interested in learning about the research behind these diets and actually tried using them and saw that they actually worked. Imagine that, just like all the thousands of colleagues of yours that are using those diets and have for literally decades. Maybe you'd know more, but you're too interested in legalities and somehow as a veterinarian, you must just hate veterinarians. It's just so weird. It's just because you're a holistic veterinarian, you're so special and wonderful. And all those other veterinarians, those traditional veterinarians, man, again, they're stupid, they're dumb, or they're greedy, but they're not on the same level as a holistic veterinarian. So yeah, it's a shame you didn't spend more time on the nutrition instead of the FDA and all these silly legal things. That no, a veterinarian isn't interested in that. They're interested in the health of the animal.
For all we hear nutritionists talk about the very real dangers of misusing therapeutic diets, veterinarians have to take it on trust that the manufacturers are producing a safe and effective product. If those manufacturers can't prove safety and efficacy, why should they be allowed to enjoy the benefits of FDA labeling and veterinary only distribution?
Well, again, they're really not interested in the FDA. Okay, they're interested. Show me clinical evidence. Show me who the board certified nutritionists are that are doing the research. Show me the trends of research that not one study. You said it yourself, Dr. Judy. I can go out and find you a study that proves anything you want. I mean, there's just studies done all the time. It's the real peer-reviewed ones done by the real researchers and that show the consistency. You should be looking at that, not looking at the FDA, because the FDA has nothing to do with therapeutic diets. I don't know why that bothers you so much. Maybe you should go work for the FDA. Maybe that would make you happy. But they really have no place in the therapeutic diets. And that veterinarians trust these diets, one, because they love looking at that kind of research. They're not stupid. And two, they use the diet every day. They see the results every day. They see the blood values. They see the skin and the coat come back. They see the diarrhea relieved. They see all this stuff all the time. I saw it every day for 34 years, which is the reason why I'm on this channel saying people shouldn't trust you, because your lack of knowledge is dangerous. The little knowledge you have over here that has nothing to do with real nutrition is dangerous.
If it's really about better protection for our pets, then we need the therapeutic diet manufacturers to step up and independently demonstrate that their diets actually work. They offer specific indications and they provide evidence based guidelines for safe and effective use.
And any veterinarian that doesn't believe that they can get that from Royal Canin Hills or Purina, they're living in a cave, or they're choosing to be ignorant of the fact that that's all available, because it is. I shared it with veterinarians all day long, but that's what veterinarians look at. That's why they trust these foods. How dare her say, you need to show me, you need to prove to me this diet works. To prove that CD multicare works? Are you kidding me? To prove KD works? Again, what cave without any windows have you been in the last 30, 40 years that you don't know how well those diets work? And if you really were interested, you could keep up with all the newest innovations going on in the last 10 years are just amazing. I mean, the stuff we're learning now versus the last 30 years. But no, you're not interested. You just want to say it's all crap. And that's your words. You said it's crap, many times on your videos, and it's coming up. You're going to say it again because that's what you say, which again, it is so shameful that you as a veterinarian that should know better and you choose not to know better.
We're going to go through a few myths about prescription diets. Myth number one: prescription pet foods need a prescription because they're just like medications. They're not like medications.
Oh God, let's just beat a dead horse. I mean, how many times is she going to say this, even though she knows the reasons behind it? Oh, just pathetic.
They're supposed to show research that supports one or more of their ingredients' efficacy in the treatment of a condition or ailment.
So they're supposed to show evidence. So because she chooses not to look at it, that means they're not showing evidence. And it's so funny. She's such an ingredientist. Notice how she said the efficacy of an ingredient in the food, as if there's one magic ingredient that we put in a food and it does this magic. Okay, she can't be this ignorant. She really can't be. This has to be on purpose.
Some are not appropriate for long term use as they're not 100% nutritionally balanced. Some of the low fat or low protein foods fall into that category. And you need to check with your veterinarian if your pet is prescribed a therapeutic prescription diet to find out if it is appropriate for long term feeding. I've said in the past, I had a client whose dog died because the dog was prescribed RD, which is a reducing diet made by Hills, very restricted, has tons of fiber, very restricted calorically, because the dog was chubby. They kept the dog on the diet for a year. The dog died of malnutrition.
Can you spell BS? How do you spell BS? Okay, a dog on RD for a year and died of malnutrition. I wonder what else was going on with that dog that it died. Okay, I have known now RD is reducing diet was around for years until we understood metabolism. Sorry, until we understood metabolism. The old science basically was we're going to fill them up with fiber, as she mentioned correctly, and we're going to reduce the calories. The fiber was supposed to distend the stomach, shoots a hormone to the brain, tells them they're full, so they have satiety, but they're getting less calories, does produce a lot of poop. Um, and it really didn't work. It worked maybe 10% of the time. Few reasons why people overfed it, so of course that negates the calorie control. But what we didn't understand is their metabolism was just designed. They were storing fat and calories instead of burning them. It was all metabolism. Now RD it would be terrible to use RD. During the transition, when we were telling veterinarians, okay, we're done with RD now, we're not going to discontinue it, but metabolic is the way to go. And this is why, all the reasons. I have a video on metabolic you can check out. Um, but there were doctors that were selling tons of RD, and I remember some of them, they'd have RD, they'd have a dog on it for 3, 4, 5 years. They didn't die from malnutrition, sorry, but they weren't losing weight either. Okay, so the whole point for her to say that, she is somewhat correct. A little bit of information is always dangerous. I think it said intermittent use on the RD bags because of the low calories, it wouldn't fit the AFCO definition. So that is true. You won't find that with metabolic. With metabolic, again, you're going to find you. I cannot think, again, I've been retired only 2 years. I cannot think of a single diet from Hills that you cannot feed long term. So her whole idea that they're not designed for long term. Again, hello 1980s. What was back? Olivia Newton-John in the 80s and Meatloaf. Okay, come up to present time. Back then, yeah, that was all true. Now we're in 2024, and it's a shame that she's still back in 1980. Though I did have some good times in 1980, but it's not nutritionally. She's wrong.
Myth number two: the FDA requires a written prescription before these foods can be sold. The FDA does not regulate therapeutic diets, just as it does not regulate nutraceuticals and vitamin supplements. Nevertheless, pet food companies require retailers to receive a written prescription from a veterinarian upon purchase. Why? It comes down to marketing and distribution of these diets. The therapeutic diet manufacturers want veterinarians to recommend their diets, but they know that veterinarians are unhappy when big box retailers and online pharmacies carry them. That's because veterinarians believe they might be implemented in lieu of veterinary care. If you had a cat with urinary tract disease and you could walk in and just buy that prescription diet without going to see your veterinarian, you might be tempted to just say, well, why would I go to the veterinarian? I don't need to go have that exam and urinalysis and spend $300. I'm just going to go buy the diet. There's some truth to that, in that you should have your sick animal seen by your veterinarian and have a diagnosis. But these diets are not providing anything that is solving anything.
Oh, so she kind of fell into that. She had to admit, well, I guess it would be good for if you're on a therapeutic diet for your veterinarian to be diagnosed. So she just wants the vet there for an initial diagnosis, and then that's it. The client is on their own, walk into PetSmart, walk down, what, 50 yards of therapeutic diets from 3 different brands, and you choose which one looks best for you, because you don't need the veterinarian, because it's going to cost you money if you go to the vet. So there you go. Just do it that way. I know she doesn't want that. We've already said how it's important for the doctor to be involved, not just for the initial diagnosis, but to see how well they do on that diet. And a lot of times they'll need meds as well with the diet. There's not a solo attempt here. Let's be multimodal as far as managing the disease. So many times it's diet related and maybe meds or something else. So it's ridiculous.
So that brings us to myth number 3: therapeutic diets can cure diseases. There are diets for liver, heart, skin, kidney, urinary tract, gastrointestinal, diabetes, bladder stones, arthritis, geriatric, brain health, joint health, just pancreatitis, you name it. But the diets are seldom used as a standalone treatment for any condition, and they are never considered a cure.
Well, I actually just got ahead of myself there. That's where she just said many times you're going to use the food plus some other things, and that's fine. I mean, there's there's nothing wrong with that. It's like she's just so anti these companies that she can't even see. Maybe I could use them along with some other things. Maybe with some of her Eastern potions and stuff she could, as long as there's not a contraindication. But no, they're just all garbage. And how does she end up? She even says these diets are not going to be a solution. They're not going to help their pet. Again, she must have a nice dark cave she lives in, because I'm just one rep that saw that every day. There's hundreds of reps, 3 different companies making incredible diets that are in all over the world. But somehow she's ignorant to that. Somehow she doesn't see that. That is what you call a bias, folks. Bias. Go watch my video on bias. And bias will cause blindness sometimes. This is what you're looking at with this woman: total blindness due to bias. That's the only way I can explain it, that she would have the nerve at the end of that to say, oh yeah, and the vet's going to recommend a food, but it's not going to help anyway.
Diets can only be used to help manage a condition.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll let this video go as long as it might go, but she does talk about the lawsuit that the FDA had, or that a few folks had, about the prescription diet and all that. And I can tell you the only thing that came out of it, because I was still working at the time, was that Hills, through the FDA said, Hills and Royal Canin and Purina, you can't really say you cure kidney disease or you cure a disease, because that falls under medications. So you have to say manage. So I remember the year that I had to stop saying treat and say manage. And it actually is I think more accurate, because it's true. It's not a medication. It's not curing most of the diseases. We just slow the progression, or we handle them or manage them. So manage really is the best word. So for a little while, all us reps had to kind of get used to not saying treat and get to manage. But she has to, again, make a big deal of it. What is the difference if you're a practicing veterinarian and you feed this food and the symptoms go away and the patient is happy and healthy and living longer? You think you'd be interested in that a little more than all this silly nonsense about verbiage in the FDA. But you have your own agenda, don't you?
Myth number 5: there's only one brand of food for your pet's condition. That is so untrue.
I've never heard that myth. There's only one brand for a condition. No, I think she's just making that up. That doesn't exist. There's 3 brands that I see in just about every vet clinic out there for palatability, for what the doctor's experiences of which one they prefer, whatever. Yeah, who says there's only one brand for heart disease or kidney disease? That's dumb.
All right, myth number 6: there's no substitute for a standard commercial therapeutic diet. Wrong, 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 wrong. You can always find a home cooked recipe for any condition. Owners with very specific food preferences can meet their personal dietary goals, looking for humanely raised meats, GMO free, organic, limited ingredient. You can make your own diets for your pets. Going to require a little bit of work, going to require consulting with a nutritionist, but you do not have to use these prescription diets.
Well, here I'm going to show my bias. Yes, I'm sure there's plenty of alternatives. There's lots of other things you could do. I tend to be swayed a little by the experience and expertise of board certified nutritionists, where I could just feed one food and know or trust that I'm doing everything right, that it's optimal nutrient levels. If I was doing it myself, my first question would be, well, who's this nutritionist? We all know the word nutritionist means nothing anymore, unless it says board certified in the front. But everybody else, these certified nutritionists, I can set up my own program here on my channel, and I'll certify you if you pass the test and send you a cute little certificate, and now you're a nutritionist. So I'm going to trust that that person knows what they're doing. Then I have to trust myself that I'm getting the ingredients right and mixing them right and doing all that right. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of risk involved in that, just as much as trusting a company that they've done it right in their kibble or their cans. So again, if that's your thing, go for it. Just be, again, look for board certified nutritionists, not just nutritionists. But for most of us, we don't have the time. We just don't have, we're just not going to do it. So we have to be smart and choose the diet that's best for our pet based on looking at the diet, looking at the history of the company, looking at their expertise, trusting our veterinarian, something that, of course, you should never trust your veterinarian. If you're listening to anything Dr. Judy says, clearly your veterinarian doesn't know squat. They're just going to sell you crap because they don't know any better.
And I actually had the New York Veterinary Medical Association come after me because on a social media online question and answer thing, I said that somebody did not have to use the veterinary prescribed dry prescription diet for their cat's urinary crystals. And they told me that I was prescribing and treating online for somebody's cat that I had never seen. Nope, I was just telling them the truth. They do not need to feed that diet, and it's absolutely the wrong diet for a cat with urinary crystals and urinary tract disease.
It's just incredible. A prescription diet, feline CD multicare, is absolutely the wrong diet to use for cats with crystals or urinary stones. We will just ignore the thousands of cats that have had their struvite stones dissolved on CD multicare, and cats that have had their idiopathic cystitis managed, cured, but managed with CD multicare. Multi-cat households where all the cats ate it and thrived and did fine because it's healthy for all adult cats. We'll just ignore all that. And now actually the CD multicare, unlike years ago in 1980s, that where Dr. Judy is still stuck at, CD multicare will also manage calcium oxalates. Once, unfortunately, they have to be removed surgically, but then we can put them on CD multicare, and the chances of those stones coming back is drastically reduced. If you don't put them on a special diet, guess what? You'll probably be doing surgery again. So that would be awful. But for her to say that that's the wrong, absolutely wrong diet, she needs to talk to another veterinarian, maybe one that actually has kept up with nutrition, doesn't have their head up into Eastern medicine or whatever it is she's into, concocting stuff and selling books and giving consultations. But to say that CD multicare, and again, I saw it personally every friggin' day of my life how well that diet worked. You probably could just go to Google or go to Hill's, their website, and if it has the reviews on there, look at all the reviews of cat owners thanking Hill's for that diet. But yet, what does she tell you? Oh yeah, no, you shouldn't be feeding that. No wonder the vets association, kind of condemned her. They should. I mean, it's a shame. Just think of the confusion. And remember the beginning of this video, which is a long time ago now, where she said, this isn't to cause fear or anything else. I'm just going to tell you that the veterinarian you trust with the health and the life of your ill animal, he's obviously a doofus. He knows nothing because he's He's recommending crap for you, not for your pet, not even your healthy pet. He's recommending crap for your sick animal. Oh, but I'm not trying to start any fear. I don't want you to feel fear or anxiety over what I'm telling you, or worse yet, and I've heard this too many times, and I share this often. Oh, my cat died from renal disease, or died, plugged up and died with urinary stones. I was feeding prescription diet, and then I find out through people like Dr. Judy that it's all crap. Oh, that's going to be a great thing that I have to go through the rest of my life, that it's because of me that my cat died. It just, it's the reason I make these videos. It's the reason I do.
For some conditions, there's also the option of adding supplements to commercial diets to make it equivalent to the veterinary recommended therapeutic diet. Joint formula foods, for example, are often based on standard formulas. They just add some more omega-3 fatty acids, some glucosamine and chondroitin for the joint support. Unfortunately, there's not enough in there to make a difference if you actually do the math. The brain diets that are out, they just added some MCT oil and some omega-3s. There's nothing magical there. It's still crap.
I think this woman is the most irresponsible woman on YouTube, and that's saying a lot because there's a lot of wackos on YouTube. She brings up JD, a joint diet. Oh, they just add some omega 3s or whatever. Okay, well, that's true. That is how the diet works. It basically is a nutrigenomic diet that changes the gene expression of the genes that are causing damage to the cartilage. It actually downregulates the gene that's causing the aggrecanase enzymes to destroy cartilage. Okay, how is that done? It's done through EPA. That is an omega-3 fatty acid. This is one of the few diets in the world that's actually an inverted ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of science. She can simplify it if she wants. I just did. Okay, but a lot of research and a lot of science that goes into it. And there are dogs now that are still alive, that are running, that are playing. Watch my video if you don't believe me, because I don't want to get into it. Watch my videos on arthritis and how well JD works. It's amazing. I know dogs that have been taken off every med, every pain med. They can go upstairs now. They have their lives back because of that diet and nothing else. They're off drugs, NSAIDs, everything. Okay, but what does she do? She just demonized, and so it's nothing better than anything else. Oh, and BD, brain diet or behavior diet, whatever you want to call it, it worked in my experience about 30% of the time. 30% of the time. But if you have a dog you're losing to cognitive dysfunction, and that they can't function anymore, they're just just like we have with humans, with Alzheimer's. When that diet works, it's amazing. Within about 30 days, you have your dog back. Now, does it work every time? No. I wish it did. Nothing's 100%, but most of our diets are much better than 30%. And that's just anecdotal. It's just my own personal experience with my clinics. But why would you not, if you're losing your dog to cognitive issues, why would you not try a diet for 30 days to see if it's going to work? Who would not do that? What did she just say? She said it's crap. She said JD is crap. She can look at all the research. JD, as a matter of fact, is the only diet that was actually, it talks about FDA and testing. If I was your Rimmondale rep and I was talking to a doctor, I would tell them we have, it's called a force plate analysis, sometimes weight bearing ability. It goes by different terms. But to test Rimmondale or any pain med, they basically will take a runway with scales, and they walk the arthritic dog over this runway, and they measure the weight they put on their sore joints. Then they'll put them on the drug, and they'll walk them over that again and see the increased weight bearing ability. That's how they measure the efficacy and the success of that drug. Well, they decided to do the same thing with JD, with joint diet, with the EPA omega-3 ratios. Now, with drugs, it works right away. They had to wait 28 days for the JD to work. It takes some time because it's more natural. But guess what? It scored just as high as those drugs at that point for weight bearing ability, showing how effective it was without the dangers of drugs. This is just with natural omega 3s. Okay. So she just called it crap. That's what Dr. Judy. So those of you that think you want to trust that woman with the health of your pet, I'm here to tell you, you're nuts. You are nuts. Okay. I don't know all the fancy supplements, and she talked about supplements. That's the most unregulated industry in the world. If she doesn't like how pet food isn't unregulated, oh my goodness, look at supplements. Of course, she produces supplements, I think. So, she doesn't want too much regulations with supplements because that's her bag there. But anyway, I don't want to get into what she sells, and I really don't care. I want to deal with what I know. Okay. I know I can't trust her because I don't know all the stuff she knows, maybe, but I do know what I do know. And she just made a fool out of herself calling JD and BD crap. What's scary is there's people that are going to believe her and they're going to miss out on the opportunity of those great diets because of her. And it's going to cause anxiety and confusion. And bottom line, the pet is the one that's going to lose.
A class action lawsuit was filed in California against several pet industry companies alleging they engaged in price fixing of prescription dog and cat food. This was back in like 2016. The named defendants in this lawsuit, it was filed in California, were Mars Pet Care, Nestle Purina, Hills Pet Nutrition, PetSmart, Banfield, and Blue Pearl Hospitals. The suit alleged that the pet diets in question contain no drugs or other substances that can't be found in conventional pet diets and therefore should not require a prescription from a veterinarian.
So there's no medicine. That's true. Oh, but it's the same ingredients we find in other foods. Well, that's true because, okay, oh, my nutrition mission, folks. What is it? Is it unique ingredients? Sometimes it is. Okay, but what is it usually? Nutrient control, right? Show me the nutrients. When you look at two different diets, you may find the same ingredients, but the nutrient levels, that's where the magic's done. That's whether it's a puppy food or a senior food, whether it's an arthritis diet, whether it's a renal diet. Many of the ingredients are the same ingredients used. It's controlling the nutrients, manipulating the nutrients. She should know this. She should know this. But no, she's going to read this stupid lawsuit. Why? Because she just hates veterinarians, I guess. She just cannot accept it, and definitely hates food companies, the big ones.
The lawsuit further alleged that the defendants were colluding to market and sell pet food as prescription pet food to consumers at above market prices. If you've ever purchased one of these special diets for your pet, you know how expensive they are. So the lawsuit was filed in U.S. District Court of Northern California. The plaintiffs were pet owners who purchased prescription diets from one or more of the companies, and they asserted that they conspired with each other to falsely promote prescription pet food. The specific diets mentioned in the complaint include Hill's Prescription Diet, Purina Pro Plan Veterinary Diets, Royal Canin Veterinary Diet, IM's Veterinary Formula. The complaint pointed out there's no reason for the foods to require a prescription since they contain no drug or other ingredient not commonly found in non-prescription pet diets. The lawsuit further alleged retail consumers, including plaintiffs, have overpaid and made purchases they otherwise would not have made on account of defendants' abuse and manipulation of the prescription requirement.
Okay, this is comical. I wouldn't have spent so much money if I didn't have to get a prescription, like they paid extra for the prescription. Oh, because you need a prescription, that's why you pay more. It's all collusion. Are you kidding me? You have Farmer's Dog and Ollie and Nom Nom and all these ridiculous fresh food delivery services that make prescription diet look like kibbles and bits as far as price. Are you kidding me? What a joke.
Veterinarians actually hand pet owners written prescriptions for a certain kind of pet food. The pet owners go to PetSmart or another location to purchase the prescribed food. These pet guardians, according to the complaint, are typical of people who consistently follow the advice and direction of medical professionals. You're such good pet owners, you listen and obey. However, the prescription dog and cat diets are not evaluated by the FDA because they don't contain drugs or other controlled substances. The case document stated that the American public reasonably expects a prescription requirement implies that a substance is medically necessary, contains a drug, medicine, or controlled ingredient, has been FDA evaluated, and legally requires a prescription. The plaintiffs allege that the prescription pet food does not meet those criteria. The lawsuit asserted that the prescription requirement allowed the defendants to market and sell prescription pet food at well above market prices that would not otherwise prevail in the absence of the prescription authorization.
So this is only a couple years ago, and I'm looking at the prices of Origin. Remember, Origin was $4 a pound. Prescription diet's $1 more than that, and Origin had a horrific, horrible nutrient profile versus a prescription diet that has a specific nutrient profile precise to manage a disease. Uh, where's the problem here? And again, Ollie, Farmer's Dog, Nom Nom. I mean, you could go through them. Think of the ones you know. They're a whole lot more expensive than prescription diet. This lawsuit was a joke. It really was a joke. Oh, but because of the prescription, I'm paying too much. You know, lawyers. Don't even get me started with lawyers.
There are legitimate reasons why prescription diets for specific medical conditions should not be fed to healthy animals. Unfortunately, for many pet owners, they will feed other pets in the home the same prescription diet for convenience. If you're putting out a bowl of dry prescription food and that pet is not allowed to eat anything else, supposedly, according to your veterinarian, and you have another pet in the house, you're just going to put out the same food if you're feeding dry food and leaving it out because you don't want the one that needs the prescription to eat the non-prescription food. So your other animal is now eating the prescription diet. Well, what if your animal that's on the prescription diet is on a very, very low protein diet? It's an old animal with kidney disease, prescribed a low protein diet. Your other animal happens to be a young growing puppy, and you put out one dry food that's low in protein, low in phosphorus. Not good for the puppy. This becomes so confusing for pet owners because it's just difficult to navigate and you don't have enough information.
did you hear that? She was just talking about the nutrient needs of a growing puppy versus the nutrient needs of a renal patient. Oh my goodness, she stumbled into nutrition. She stumbled into nutrients. She didn't stay there long, but she stumbled into it. Why? Because in her mind, it's so confusing. If I have a growing puppy and I have a dog that needs to be on a special diet, oh my goodness, it's so confusing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I'll switch and give the puppy the renal diet and the renal patient the puppy food. Oh, but it's not complicated buying supplements and organic food and all this other stuff to make my concoction to be have my pet healthy, like Dr. Judy says. That's not complicated at all. Just feeding a food, that's too complicated. And of course, she picks the most extreme. Again, she's wrong. If she thinks that you can't feed prescription diet to healthy dogs, she's just flat wrong. Again, she's got to get out of the 1980s and come up to 2024. But rather, just keep making ignorant videos that mislead people.
The complaint further asserted that the positioning of the pet food as prescription is effective in part because all the defendants work together to promote it. The veterinary clinic defendants write the prescriptions for the food, which is made by the pet food company defendants and sold by the pet store defendant. A little bit of collusion going on?
Collusion. A manufacturer selling to a retailer that sells to the consumer. Man, that's collusion. We need to shut them down. That's got to be illegal. You can't do that.
If your veterinarian is in the habit of recommending prescription pet food or for your dog or cat, please ask them for balanced homemade recipes instead. Otherwise, you're going to be spending a lot of money for poor quality pet food that will not improve your furry family member's health in the long run.
If she was actually a legit veterinarian, she would know that you don't want to ask a veterinarian for a home cooked recipe or something like that. Hills used to do that. All the prescription diets, they made a homemade recipe for people when I started with them. And what they found is we've got to stop doing that because guess what? People don't follow the recipe. Oh, I don't have any of that, or I don't know where to find that, or that ingredient's too expensive. The veterinarian will lose total control over that patient if they say, here's a homemade remedy. No veterinarian's going to do that. They don't want the liability, and they sure don't want the risk of that pet not getting the nutrition they need. So again, this just shows her bias. It's totally unreal, and she knows. She knows if you ask 10 veterinarians out of 10 are going to say, "I'm sorry, I don't do that." That's exactly, and she knows it, and that's why she's saying do it. Oh, but if you go to a holistic veterinarian, they'll have all these wonderful things for you.
A holistic or integrative veterinarian is going to be much more likely to be able to prescribe that for you, meaning a homemade recipe, versus your traditional veterinarian who, frankly, did not get enough education in veterinary school to know how to balance that diet unless they just think that this is a really fun thing to do and they take the time to learn how to do it.
Oh no, the veterinarian doesn't know anything about nutrition because they didn't learn that in vet school, which of course is false. But like most veterinarians, and one that I even had him on one of my videos. He said, "Hey, I don't need to be the expert. I know the people, the experts that actually make these diets. That's why I recommend them." So no, but again, this comes down to trust, comes down to bias. I'm going to trust the board certified nutritionists that have made diets for decades that proven. Now, of course, I had the benefit of seeing it every day, unlike most pet parents. So I'm convinced, I'm sold 100%. I have very little trust for holistic veterinarians that have gotten no nutrition training. Just let's make it up, whatever feels good. Let's put in some mushrooms and some rosemary, whatever. But oh, you don't need to be a board certified nutritionist. You just need to, I don't know. I honestly don't know. None of them have nutritional credentials, but yet they're all nutritionists somehow. So in their world, I guess that works. Holistic means just make it up.
There are other companies now that are out there that are using human grade ingredients, that are using whole real foods. I didn't take the time to look up a long list of them, but I would encourage you, if your veterinarian says, oh, you need a prescription diet for XYZ, say, great. What company makes that using human grade whole food ingredients? Because that's where I want my prescription written, which, by the way, even for these companies, you still got to have that whole prescription thing. Because again, you don't want to just buy a low protein, low phosphorus food if you don't have an animal that truly needs that.
What is what did you just say? Oh, well, you need a prescription for these other companies that use more attractive ingredients. I'll give you one. Medicus Veterinary Diets. Dr. Judy had the owner and founder, Dr. Brissett, I think, something like that. And that seemed like a nice lady. Had her on her program. It did a whole hour interview. And guess what? I looked at the product. The nutrient levels, guess what? They mimic Hill's almost exactly. Okay, so kudos to her. She made a great product. She's using whole ingredients and all that, which I could care less about. I'm looking at the nutrients and the bioavailability and all that. I think she's done a great job. Oh, talk about collusion or talk about price fixing with a prescription. What did Dr. Judy said? Prescription Royal Canin, all around $5 or $6 a pound. Guess what Medicus veterinary diets are? You're not even going to guess. Okay, $39.99 a pound. Oh, but it's whole clean pure ingredients. It's the same nutrient levels you're going to get from that prescription diet, but instead of paying $5 and having lawsuits because that's so high, you can spend $40 a pound. Don't you feel good now? So there you go. All of you on prescription diet, you all need to get off that crap and you need to go buy $40 a pound Medicus veterinary diets. Go check it. You think I'm exaggerating? Go check it out and you'll see. Dr. Judy thinks it's great. And again, what did she do? She just finished up by saying, but you don't just go buy a low phosphorus diet or a renal diet or urinary diet. You need a vet. So it's good that it's okay for Medicus veterinary diets to require a prescription. That's okay. It's evil when it's Royal Canin, Purina, or Hills. But Medicus, it's okay. They can do it because they're looking out for the pet. Unbelievable hypocrisy.
In July 2017, the California District Court dismissed that lawsuit. But in July 2020, the California Appeals Court ruled the district court erred in dismissing this important lawsuit. Yay, a win for pet owners.
So, yay for pet owners. A ridiculous lawsuit saying ridiculous stuff that because there's a prescription, the price is too high, and because there's no medicine, it shouldn't say prescription, all that other stuff. Any veterinarian would understand that and would never have the audacity to put it on their channel and actually support it. But that shows you where she's at. That shows you her bias. She is so against veterinary medicine is absolutely amazing to me. I mean, you can see it. You can just tell how much she is, how bad she is. So anyway, I will tell you that because of the only changes that were made because of that lawsuit, the FDA had to get something out of it. Nothing has changed. Hills, Royal Canin, Purina still sell just through veterinarians. You're not getting it without a prescription. Ha ha, FDA. Ha ha, Dr. Judy. The prices are not that much higher than other foods. They use the same thing. Well, there's no medicine in that food. That's appellate court or higher court, whatever, and the ingredients are basically the same. Duh, because you're a stupid lawyer that doesn't understand it's not the ingredient difference, it's the nutrient difference. Dr. Judy knows that, but again, she's kind of got an agenda here to try to make traditional doctors look bad. The only thing that came of it was, again, reps were told, okay, if you use the word treat, that really isn't, that falls under medicine in the FDA. So we have to say manage, which again, as I already said, is actually pretty accurate descriptions. So that's why we all got used to saying manage. And you'll hear me, I've been trained pretty well after a couple of years, that now I just say manage. So that's all that came of that whole thing. Lawyers made a lot of money. That's really all that became of that. And people like Dr. Judy and Dr. Becker and Rachel and Rodney and all those guys will go around, oh, there's always lawsuits against Hills, always lawsuits against Hills. Yeah, it sounds like familiar to somebody else that always has lawsuits about them. So anyway, I think that's it, guys. This is really long. If you are still with me, I really appreciate it. I really do. But I had to get this off my chest. This stuff just, it just makes me nuts that this woman is followed by people and worse, trusted by them. It's terrible. So I will continue when I see stuff that is misleading and wrong. I'm going to continue as long as I can to put it out there. I hope you will share this with some of your friends that love their animals and get caught up in the social media hype, because it's terrible. Anyway, you all take very good care of yourselves. Appreciate the support. Give me some comments. I love those. I'm trying to keep up with them. I know I got to get to reviewing some other diets too. I apologize for that. But anyway, take care.